Hi, and welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Eric.
I'm Bevan.
We're bringing you more Dallas today. We are finishing season three, episodes 21 to 25. Um, and if you're a big Dallas fan, you know what's coming.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me roll the credits and we'll chat. All right, so it's just some good episodes. I mean,
Mm.
they've been pretty consistent through the season, I feel like. There really hasn't been any like boring episodes. Always something going on. Episode 21, Divorce Ewing Style. JR gets home to a surprise anniversary party. Um, Lucy says to Kristen, I guess to piss her off, whoever thought it would have lasted this long or something along those lines.
Yeah. Well, it's
Um,
because JR and Sue Ellen are acting like a big loving couple, and Kristen's kind of sitting there dirty over in the corner.
and Sue Ellen invited Kristen, we find out
Mm.
too. So we all know like Sue Ellen's kind of like putting on an act. Um, and then Sue Ellen makes a toast to Kristen, and that she says she's leaving and going back to California. Um, and then I guess like once the party clears up, they end up going to bed. He's loaded. She dumps champagne on him and tells him no lovemaking. JR goes to work, and we see that Luella is back in the office. That's his secretary, for those that don't know. Bobby tells JR, who named somebody Luella? Is there a Luella out there? Let us know. Because I really want to know if somebody's named Luella, because I've never seen it in my 30 years at the hospital. Um, Bobby tells JR to open an old oil field up. JR seems annoyed. Is that Ewing 23 that he once opened up at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um.
I didn't remember.
Yeah,
I
I'm
didn't
pretty
get to
sure
read.
it's just Ewing 23, and JR's just annoyed about it because he doesn't want to be questioned over everything. But that's kind of why Bobby's there. So
Yeah. Okay. So wait, JR blows Kristen off and he goes to see Serena because now he has a new girl.
yeah,
Um, and Serena's great. Like I love Serena. She's very just all about the business, you know?
yeah,
She's like, I'm a good side piece. That's what I want to do. That's my full-time job. And basically, like, if I can't be your side piece, I need to get coins some other way. So I'm gonna keep, side piecing around till I get to what I want. Basically, Alan goes to JR. He was fired from the law firm. Alan says everything he did for him was for him. JR denies it and tells him to leave Dallas. JR goes to Kristen. She goes off on him. He leaves, and we see that someone is following JR. He calls Sergeant McSwain. I put dirty cop. I think
yeah,
McSwain is his pocket cop. He has like
yeah.
pocket people everywhere.
He does. He does. Especially in these episodes.
Yeah, right. And they like doing these things to these people, which is even worse. Like I almost feel like I would rather see them like that they're blackmailed by him or something, but they actually like are cool with it. I guess he pays them like a lot of money. Whatever. I personally wouldn't be able to live with myself if I did some of the things that these people are doing for him. I put Ellie talks to the dude about his building more houses. Oh, that's the what's his name? Um, the guy that she's interacting with about
Matt,
those
Matt, Matt something or
Matt,
other.
right? He's building houses and high rises on like land or something that
Yeah, so like the
is
last couple of episodes, Ellie's been petitioning to get this land preserved.
right.
Yeah, and he wants to build on it, and he's like, given the city land to essentially replace it, even like he's gone out of his way to sort of make it a decent deal, but she wants that particular land to be preserved because it's like,
Yeah,
it's got its whole ecosystem thing happening and blah blah blah. It's just about like the nature and all that jazz.
yeah, and he just wants to like build and make money off it,
Yeah,
as I guess that's what his job is.
yeah.
Um, McSwain tells JR that Cliff joined the DA's office, so I guess Cliff's doing something, which is nice because he was depressed for a while. Alan goes, although Cliff I feel like isn't in these episodes that much. Alan goes to Kristen, offers her revenge against JR. Um, she wants money and says that it's strictly business. He says he has records, I guess, of things that
So they basically
he
like
documented
Kristen's
things or
Kristen's
whatever.
getting sick and tired of being thrown to the side and like ignored and stuff. And she's like, if we're gonna work together though, it's strictly business. There's like she's not sleeping with him or anything like that. And he starts
Right.
talking about the papers and like thing and like files that he's kept with regards to the fake campaign and all that.
Yeah. McSwain busts. I put McSwain busts PI following JR. That's the one that Sue Ellen had hired.
Yeah, he finds out that Sue Ellen's hired a PI on him now.
Yeah. JR confronts her about it. She says it's payback. He says he will kill her first if she tries to do anything. Um, she says you don't have the guts. And then I said he tells Kristen get Sue Ellen back in the sanitarium and do whatever you got to do, basically.
Yeah, so like the whole setup is that like Sue Ellen's just trying to get like a little bit of ammo back on so like he if he does try and take her to court over the kid over John Ross and all that, she's got something to sort of fight back with. And and it's enough to make him look bad. Like she'll look bad too, but like she's the whole purpose there is to make him look equally as bad, sort of thing.
Yeah,
And that's sort of when he's like going to Kristen and like ranting and raving about it. And that's sort of when they decide that they're going to sort of try and set her up to go back to the sanitarium by like at least making it look like she's drinking.
and she also Kristen says that she wants to be his wife and makes him promise. So he does basically promise.
Yeah.
Kristen and Sue Ellen says she is sorry. She feels bad about getting between JR. Oh, Kristen, I forgot. Sorry. Kristen tells Sue Ellen that she's sorry, feels bad about getting between JR and her.
The fake
While they're out,
lunch. Yeah.
yeah, while they're out to lunch, she spills her drink on her, which will clearly make her smell like alcohol.
Yeah.
Sue Ellen goes and cleans up, whatever. JR tells Tom, that's the PI, to mess with the reports um, that he gave Sue Ellen. Jock
Yeah. So he goes back
and
to the PI that he caught and is basically like, we need you to fudge up the reports. He's like, well, what about the physical ones? Like she's got copies. And he's like, oh, I'll deal with that. But I need you to type these up, sort of thing.
yeah. So I guess like off camera he found them where she hid them or whatever. I mean, it was in their bedroom, whatever. You have a big land. You could probably try to, you know, hide it under a rock somewhere out in the field. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Um, Chuck and Ellie asked Sue Ellen, what's up with their dress. She said, oh, whatever, a drink was spilled. She gets a letter and hides it in her drawer, which is like underneath like a little compartment, or not like under, like she just
It's like
keeps it like
underneath her little
under the
jewelry
drawer.
display. She's got like this jewelry
Yeah,
display, like the secondary drawer in there, and it's just under there.
which isn't a bad spot, but again, it's in their room. Like,
Yeah.
no, it's hard to hide something in your room. That's his room as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
JR tells Ellie and Jock about um, the alcohol in her room. Again, he says he's just making shit up, or he planted it, one or the other, just so he didn't make shit up, 'cause that's what he does. Um, JR calls Kristen to tell Jock about the day before with the whole fake lunch meeting and all.
Yeah.
Connie, I like this. Connie says, I'll believe Kristen is going to California when she is on the plane. Because Connie doesn't really like her. She always makes faces at her and stuff, and she deals with her just because she has to.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, you have to work in the same office with people. I have to deal with a lot of people that I don't normally deal with, but at work. But you know, because I'm in the office with them.
Yeah.
um, they get a call. Sue Ellen was pulled over on suspicion of drunk driving. No one believes her. Sue Ellen tells Dr. Elby,
We should
tells him
note
she
that
made.
McSween was in the car when she was getting arrested as well. He's in the back of seat of
Oh,
the police car, so it's like all set up.
it's a fit. Yeah, it's a setup because he does something else, I think, too. Um, so she tells Dr. Albee that she made mistakes and told, and she, oh, by telling JR like what her plan was, which we already
Yeah.
talked about. Like, why would she do
Yeah.
that? Sue Ellen goes home, brings up her drinking problem. She tells them JR set her up. Um, she goes to get the papers, the reports from the PI from under the in the drawer, whatever. They look at them, and it's just business meetings and dinners. Sue Ellen attacks him, and he calls the doc about Sue Ellen, and he smirks because this is his way to get her back in the sanitarium.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah. So like, JR's always been is always pretty like I mean, obviously we know sort of what's going to occur and how things go as the series goes on and stuff. But at this point in time, it's kind of when JR starts, after all the little fobs here and there with like where he almost got in trouble over the house, like leveraging the house. There's the red file and all that, though like mum and dad don't know about that. But like I just mean that like these next few episodes, and it really starts here, I reckon, in this one, is like JR just kind of knocks down everybody, you know?
And
And
I feel that it starts with the episode that the land was saved. Like when
uh,
I feel like it kind of started there because I feel like that was like his power trip. Like,
yeah,
see, I made this happen. Like I did this amazing thing where he risked his family house for that, like so I feel like it started there because that's a big deal and that's like a high. And
yeah.
now like hurting people and doing everything to destroy people is a high for him. And he's like up here, like with the power hungry and he's just like, I'll get everybody, like
Well, it's
hence
just
why
that
it
like
leads to the finale.
it's just how well he sort of ends up playing everything. Like, he, yeah. Well, we'll go into it as it goes on, but yeah,
He does and he doesn't, because when you're getting to this point, this is what's going to piss people off to a degree where nobody can come back from. You know what I
well, that's why
mean?
he says too, like he doesn't. It's true, he doesn't. He doesn't. But that's also why. I mean, if he even remarks in the finale, in this business, you got to learn to roll. I've learned to roll with the punches. Which is
Right.
exactly what he does. Like, it was like when he's trying to get rid of Gary again, but Gary was already leaving. You know what I mean? It's that serendipitous thing. So like, but and I suppose you're right, it has. But I just find that like just just in these few episodes it's just like he keeps winning consistently, and then he just nails everyone else in the process.
Yeah. So we have episode 22, Doc's Trial, part one. Sue Ellen returns home in a cab. I forget where she was. Did she get sent away for the night or something? Or
No,
something? Oh,
that
her car was
was
gone.
no, in the end of the last episode she goes because she resolves to leave JR. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
okay.
Yeah, she's resolved to leave him, and she's with Dr. Elby and everything. She's going through this whole thing where like she's just talking about like I'm what about my son and all that, that's what's keeping her there, sort of thing. And
Right.
predominantly. and he's just like, that might be a sacrifice you have to make for now, yada yada yada. And so she
Yeah.
sort of finally resolves to actually leave, and she calls Dusty.
Oh, that was in
And
that last episode?
I'm fairly certain it was, wasn't it? Because the
Uh,
Jock's trial, she's drinking by part two.
yeah, because I think it happens in Jock's Trial Part 1, I believe.
Okay.
But that's
Oh,
fine.
there
We
we
won't
go.
get into it more.
Yeah, no, no, yeah.
So she gets home in a cab. Jock asks um Bobby if he thinks she's been drinking, or it's like kind of like the family's all like, "Hey, she's been drinking," like they're like suspicious, but won't
Yeah.
like just flat out ask her. I mean, even though she whatever, they don't believe her. I
Yeah.
guess they don't trust her right now. Um, do you remember who Sloane is? If Sloane comes in,
That's
Cliff
I
isn't.
need more context than that.
I know. Well, I do. If Sloane comes in, Cliff isn't a fan. Some he's some lawyer. Oh, it's the lawyer from the trial that Cliff was on.
Oh
That
yeah, he's the DA. Oh, that
with
guy. Yeah, okay.
Julie's. Yeah, yeah.
So Sloane's the
Sorry, I
DA,
know.
who's yeah, he's the one who prosecuted Cliff over Julie.
Right. Um, because I didn't, and then that's what like I add things as I go on, and I usually backtrack, but then I didn't this time, so that's what we
Yeah,
get.
no, no, they did to a degree because he ends up telling Cliff, "You're gonna have to get over it.
Right.
Like if we're gonna work together, sort of thing." Blah blah blah. But yeah, no, keep
Yeah,
going.
because he's in the DA's office too. He gives Cliff the case of the body found at South Fork.
Mm.
Um, and then this is where I made note of Matt Devlin, who is the guy that Miss Ellie is dealing with.
Yeah, Matt
I
Devlin.
finally got his name. I didn't get it all the other episodes he was in. He fights with Ellie and the ladies about the park. Matt wants to take Ellie home to talk to her. That's all I got there. Yeah, Kristen and JR plot. He says he will handle it, getting Sue Ellen to drink, that is.
Mm.
Jock asks what Ellie and Matt are doing. I guess because he's like, I don't know, like suspicious of Matt being there.
He's just sort of like, is that? It's more like, is it? It's more like, oh, what's that about? Is in like, oh, do I have to worry about that? You know, it's like that type of vibe. That's what
Yeah,
I got
yeah,
from it. You know,
yeah, you're right. That's exactly what it was like. Me,
so it's like not really It's a bit of jealousy, but it's more like, do I have to be jealous here? Like, have I got something to worry about?
yeah. Um, so I guess JR goes in her room and Sue Ellen throws something at the door. Do you remember that, like that part right after that?
No.
When JR just comes into the door and she's like hurls something at the door and he goes out. That's all I have for that scene. Um, Greg calls Lucy for dinner. That's her professor, man. She's very
Yeah.
backburnered in this. And Ray isn't even in some of these, which is again why he probably wanted to leave the show. Um, JR says he wants to send Sue Ellen back to the sanitarium. Cliff calls Pam. Digger's drunk. He blames the Ewings, of course.
Yeah,
Pam,
so Digger's gone off the handle again, and it's
yeah,
a really bad one, essentially. And like, Cliff's blaming like what happened when he got like ousted out of the recent political race, and
yeah.
he wasn't in the OLM anymore, and blah blah blah. And Pam's just like, oh my god.
Um, yes, Pam says that he's just as much to blame as the Ewings are. He calls the sheriff about the homicide on South Fork. Who's the sheriff? It's McSwain, isn't it?
No, it's McSween's the detective. It's that. Oh my
Oh,
god, he's in everything, but he's that shorter fellow.
I'd probably have his name eventually if I didn't get it.
Uh, well, he's in. I can't even believe I don't remember him because he's in One Tree Hill.
Oh, the basketball coach, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, but very young here.
yeah.
Um, Jock tries to connect with Ellie, but she has a meeting with Matt. He's trying to like go on little dates with her and stuff, but
Yeah.
she's fighting for this thing with Matt, and she's also doing something else, which we find out in a minute
I don't
or
really think
two,
she's fighting with
hopefully.
it. She's just sort of letting him kind of like flirt with her and make her feel pretty.
Yeah, right. Um, Cliff pushes to find out whose body was found at South Fork. Bobby talks
Yeah.
to Sue Ellen about being on her side. He says that he will be there for her and try to help her as much as he can, whatever. She fills him in on her plan to get custody of John Ross. He's like, don't play his game. He's too good at it. And we find out that Matt is pursuing Ellie into something more. And she's going along with it a little bit here and there. Um, the sheriff goes to South Fork for the records of anybody that worked for South Fork in what year? 30 years ago? I forget what it was.
Yeah, something like that. So they're going to, yeah, just going through employment records to see who fits profiles and blah blah blah.
And he said that they didn't keep the records around there because they're in the office, but they, like from the past 25 years. But I guess those records, this is where Ray is, his only part, I think, in it. Ray
Mm.
helps them find it, the records, whatever that they need. Pam finds Digger out cold drunk. JR cut back on Bobby's fields and didn't tell him. Sheriff tells Cliff McKinney got fired and hated Jock. That's the dude whose
So
body
they've
was
established that the dead body is Hutch McKinney's,
Hutch.
and so in this time they established that the body is Hutch McKinney, and that that he was he would have been the one that um is working on South Fork and blah 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 that they're looking for. And so
Yeah,
they start to like interview people who would have known him around the time and all that sort of stuff.
even though it was like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So
And
funny.
some of these people like remember it though.
Yeah, of course. Well, I guess it was like kind of a big event that, it went down. And a lot of people do remember the negative things and the big things that
Yeah.
happened. So yes, these guys are like 80 years old, but they do seem to remember things.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's fair.
Digger Digger is hospitalized. Sue Ellen tells Dr. Elby she's going to leave JR and Dusty will help her get John Ross back.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
Dr.
That's where I
Elby
got a
keeps
better feeling
pushing
and
her
stuff.
like you got to deal with yourself, like take care of yourself because you're always depending on someone else. Like you were depending on JR, now you're depending on Bobby, you're depending on Dusty.
Yeah.
So he's trying to be like, do you, girl, basically,
Yeah. He's trying to just get her to sort of make plans for herself and live for herself rather than yeah.
for men or other people. Bobby pushes JR about Sue Ellen. Cliff's what? Cliff's buddy made a rep. I put Cliff's buddy made a replica of Hutch. That was weird. Like
Yeah.
a like that little weird statue, which was actually pretty good for what, 1979,
Yeah,
80,
1980. Yeah, something
80.
like that. Yeah, and they put
Oh,
like the
we're in the
little
80s. I didn't even think of that.
yeah, it'd be 1980 by now.
Yeah. Fenton warns the Ewings. Is Fenton the one that you're talking about? The cop?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's his name.
Fenton warns the Ewings. I told you I would have it eventually. I don't hear them right away, and then I get it later. Um, Investigator found the gun buried near the body. Jock says it was his gun. Well, at least he admitted it. I mean, he could have denied it. It's
Yeah.
30 years ago. Would they really find anything on it? It's been in dirt for years. JR tries to get Cliff off the case.
Yeah, so as soon as that sort of comes out, Jock mentions that he wants Clip off the case because yeah, that'd be his gun.
Too close to home.
Yeah.
A dude from the past gets interviewed. Sue Ellen goes to Dusty's hotel and he isn't there. with the hotel that looks like a house.
Yeah.
Matt and Ellie are out for lunch. He lets his feelings known for her. Sue Ellen watches the news. Dusty is dead. He was flying to Dallas. She pours some alcohol and downs it. Bobby gets oh my gosh. My words are ridiculous. Bobby gets home. It looks like horse. And Jack gets arrested. That's all I
So like with that
have.
whole episode is like, despite the fact that Albie is like saying to Sue Ellen to not rely on others and everything, I find that like a lot. I feel like given the state she's in and stuff, her building up enough to even walk away from JR was a big deal.
Mm,
And yeah, she was relying on Dusty and stuff like that. But I think her arc over these like few episodes and stuff like that were just sort of a really decent sort of tie off to what she's been doing all season, which is trying to sort of find her way and like understand her own feelings and stuff like that. And so
yeah,
like we see earlier on where she's had all this drama, like just having like a any sort of real feeling for a kid. And then when she does, she only has it for a few months and she's got to consider walking away, you know, and she does want to leave, but she knows that she can't just take her kid. And so she finally resolves to actually do that and actually take this chance with the man that she's been encouraged to take a chance with to a certain degree, you know.
yeah,
And but all at the same time, she's still building all her hopes on these like straw man type things, you know. It's all the same sort of stuff. So it's sort of sad, but really telling when you can sort of like I think people are like that to a degree in real life. The ones that want to change, it's sort of like you're trying to wriggle out of that old skin for a long while, and I feel like that's what Sue Ellen's doing.
yeah. But I almost feel like she has to do that. Like, look what she's dealing with. This
Oh yeah,
motherfucker
no.
has done these terrible things. Like
Oh yeah, definitely.
you
But
have to rely on other people to help you out of this situation if you want this kid. And I don't think Dr. Elby sees the whole picture, but I know
it's
what
the
you
level
mean.
of her reliance though. It's the level of her reliance though.
Right,
It's
right.
like they will save me. Like even her phrasing, you know, like when she's talking about Bobby won't let him do it. Like on some level, she's got to sort of try and take control of her life and not let people not be sort of people's thingers, you know.
Oh,
And
neat.
I just think that like,
Right.
and then when it all comes crashing down with Dusty's death, and she just takes that drink, it's like I don't know. I sort of I get her character motivations are just so like you know conflicting and contradicting because she's a mess. But like
Yeah.
it's sort of like it's very real in that regard. Like that is something that happens. It all it takes sometimes is that little bit extra on the stress, that one thing you were like relying on, and you go back to your addiction. You know?
Yeah, right. True. Episode 23 is Jock's Trial, Part 2.
Yeah.
Matt and Ellie have some wine. She feels she is betraying Jock. He made her feel like she is a woman again. He scraps the project for her, which
Mm,
is a big deal.
yeah. It
Like
was
it took
quite a
her
few
like
millions tied up.
10 episodes to do it.
Yeah.
Um, Bobby calls about Jock being arrested. Paparazzi harasses Jock. I was gonna say harasses Jock. And the family at court. Pam finds out from Cliff that Digger's in the hospital and rolls out. Digger could use a little drink.
Yeah.
Um, Pam feels bad. JR is about to go off on her, but Bobby shuts him up. That was funny. I
Yeah.
like that scene.
Yeah. That's yeah.
Um, the lawyer goes over who may have killed Hutch. Harv. Oh, I made like a side note. But Harv isn't a criminal lawyer. So he gets like another lawyer, I guess, to take care of the case for him. I guess he's just like the financial lawyer, I believe.
Yeah, so he'd be like the
Um,
family lawyer that's more about like their affairs and stuff, but his own thing, he sounds more like, yeah.
yeah. JR says Sue Ellen is drunk in Fort Worth. He and Bobby go there. Um, Jock tells his story about Hutch. Went to a saloon, they fight. Jock threatens him. The lawyer doesn't want to put him on the stand. I guess he doesn't think it's a good idea because of,
Yeah, it's too incriminating because and the dispute was over money and stuff like that. And yeah.
yeah. Jock and Ellie talk about her issues. She used Matt, but she loves Jock and would never be unfaithful to him. I thought that was a really sweet moment too between them.
Yeah, yeah.
JR and Sue Ellen talk about him getting her out of jail, says everything he does is for his family. Right.
Yes.
I
Of course it
really
is.
think that he believes this, which is the craziest thing to me because he drives the whole family away. It's so bizarre. Um, Lawyer dude wants to know the jury and wants Jacques to try to remember what happened to his gun. Again, that was 30 years ago. Jacques don't know. Um, Bobby heads to the hospital to see Cliff about Jock. They talk about what? Oh, they talked it out in front of Digger. Digger's in the hospital. I don't know if Digger's really respondent. I mean, he sees what's going on, but like he's having some issues.
Yeah.
He says he didn't
He's
want
just
this to
shutting down and
happen.
dying. So he's kind of there, he's kind of not there.
He didn't want this to happen. He would never hurt Ellie. Um, then JR has to testify, which I was kind of confused about
It
why
was
he would have to
it was about
testify.
the ownership of the gun because JR was there when Jock was given the gun.
Wasn't he like 9?
Yeah.
It's so crazy. This case, I feel like would have been like a mistrial or something. It just doesn't seem right in a lot of ways. Um, he gets on Sue Ellen's case for drinking. Worst thing that happened to her is him, is what she says.
Is that at at the
Yeah,
courthouse?
at the
Yeah, she's
courthouse.
like got her little drinkies in the purse.
Yeah. Oh man. JR gets on the stand. The lawyer's asking about the gun. Virgil gets on the stand. Says he heard Jock's threat. I guess that's the little old man that they questioned.
Yeah, yeah.
Jock, Jock came to wash up the blood all over him. He says, Cliff finds out Digger is dying, calls a recess, and he tells Ellie that Digger is asking for her.
Yeah.
Digger tells his story. I made another note. No Lucy. Lucy's
Yeah.
gone.
Wasn't Lucy with
Um,
the professor?
Only in the first part of this thing. She's not in part two. Digger tells a story about Hutch. He was with his wife Rebecca. Hutch says it was his baby. Rebecca says Hutch is the daddy. Slaps Rebecca and shoots Hutch. Digger did. I kind of forgot that stuff, and I was like, oh shit. I
Yeah,
totally
so
forgot how
yeah,
that
so
happened.
Rebecca was having an affair with old Hutch, and that's how Pammy was conceived.
And Rebecca looked just like Victoria Principal.
Oh my God. But yeah. Actually, that's so sad that scene though, because it's just like, Pam's just like watching her dad die and then has this like horrible revelation that she's not even his kid. Like right when he
Like
dies.
she really should be like the next appointment for Dr. Albie. I don't know why she didn't go, and I think Miss Ellie suggested it because that
Yeah, she
woman
should
Pam needs therapy probably more than Sue Ellen at this point.
have.
Um, Pam asks about the baby. He says, "I always loved you, Pam, like you were my own." Then dies.
Yeah.
Jock was believing that he did kill Hutch. That cracked me up. He's like, he had me believing I killed him. But
Yeah.
again, it was 30 years ago. He probably forgot. He's probably like, did I kill him? I don't know. He did fight with him.
Did I
He's
shoot
probably
him
like,
in
if
the
I
head
had my
too?
right, you never know. Like, I'm like, dude. That's why I feel like this case would not have held up for 30 years later.
But this is also
Um,
where it starts Pam on her search for her mother.
Yeah. Even though she's dead at this point, though, but she wants to find more information about her mother, I thought, right?
Yeah, she thinks that she's dead at this point and stuff like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
because, like, yeah,
But she just wants info about her because, because of what happened and stuff.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
because she didn't get to know her real daddy, I guess. Um, Jock was believe. Oh, like I said that. The prosecutor was that good, he said. Pam is in shock, and then we have Digger's funeral, and that's all I have for that.
Yeah.
Episode 24, The Wheeler Dealer. Sounds fun. Um, Ellie
This
asked Jock.
episode, so I just sort of thought there's so much was sort of happening with JR in this episode, like so much was going on.
Yeah,
And they sort
all
of,
right.
I don't know, it still managed to build really well though towards like the next episode and stuff
It
like that.
did,
So
yeah. So Ellie asked Jock about Amanda. She says to go visit her. He says to go with him.
mm.
JR says the bank is paid off. South Fork is free and clear. See, that's where like his head's just getting big. Like, see, like I got us out of this debt. Like he's just thinking he's the king of the world.
And currently still getting money from the South Asian wells. Like he so they paid the debt and now they're just in the black essentially at this point.
Yeah. Sue Ellen is hitting up the liquor when the family comes in. Bobby and Lucy help protect Sue Ellen. JR talks shit about Pam. Go ahead.
He took shit about everybody in that scene. He like has a dig
He
at Sue
does.
Ellen over the alcohol, over a drink, and then he just starts talking about like how Pam's mum was basically like a whore. Like,
And Bobby punches him.
yes, one
Sue
of the many
Ellen
times Bobby punches him.
and Sue Ellen asks if he wants a club soda. That made me laugh too. JR goes to Serena and she's with another man. She's like, "Isn't this what you wanted? A cash and carry?" He goes to Kristen. She acts all pathetic and he pulls her into bed and says, "Shut up." And then they bang
Yeah, because she keeps saying, "I'm not going to do anything. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that," and then he just like pulls her in.
because he just wants his dick sucked or whatever.
Yeah, he just yeah.
Sorry to be vulgar, people. I
Well,
mean,
he's all happy because all the loans are. He's all sort of happy because the loans are paid off as well and everything, and the family's kind of just like, we're glad they're paid off, but you still kind
yeah.
of almost lost our home.
Um, Bobby and Pam go to Diggers. Aunt Maggie tells Pam what she knows about her mama. She didn't
Mm.
know much. Basically looking for anything about Rebecca, her mama. Hank from the Asian Wells tells JR about oil issues. Nationalize the wells. I don't know what that is. I have no idea what that means.
So in that context, it's basically so what's happening here is like there's like a coup happening in this unspecified country, and it's
Right.
the country that is sort of offshore, is like just off from where those wells are. And essentially, when they nationalize it, the government, so the new, so they're getting rid of the old government, and their government nationalize it. It means they take possession of it all because they're not beholden to any of the
Oh,
deals or anything from the prior government because they don't exist anymore. Stuff like that. So
okay. Yeah, I had
so like
no clue.
you can nationalize things like that, like oil and everything, in different ways. But in this specific situation, it's the new regime nationalizing the wells and taking possession of it all.
How did people understand that back then? Like, you can't Google anything. Like, what would you have done?
I mean, I don't know.
And I didn't know it until now, and I've seen the show about 4 times or 5 times through.
It just takes the onus off private enterprise, so they don't get money from it anymore. They just yeah.
Right, right. They just stop and then they lose the money that they had in it, which is what makes
Yeah, well,
sense now
yeah,
to me.
exactly.
I knew how they were screwed over, but I just didn't understand what the nationalization was that they talk about constantly.
Yeah, so like it's
Oh,
just
no.
some yeah,
Thank you.
they it is some unspecified country just so that they could have like the fast and loose with what was happening. You can just throw that sort of they do that a little bit in Dynasty as well. So,
Yeah, Yeah, because I don't know a lot of stuff on there either. Like I
Most of
don't
that
get these
show
oil things.
that show's less business than Dallas is, but yeah.
It is, but there's still in the early seasons. There is a lot of it, like in at least the first four.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. True enough.
JR wants to bribe them. Um, bribe
Yeah,
who?
so he thinks that he might be able to bribe some of the rebels, essentially the leaders of the rebels
Oh,
or whatever. He wants to bribe them so he can still keep, you know, essentially like his money and all that. And Hank, yeah, is like, no
yeah.
good. They're not those type of rebels. It's not going to work. And so JR's like,
Oh.
okay. And you see, he starts freaking a little bit, but he's like, you know, just let me know what happens. And he starts plotting immediately.
So Kristen had started seeing a bunch of JR's friends and coworkers, whatever you want to call them. Kristen
As if
saw
she
Vaughn
wasn't kind of
Leland
doing that already. But yeah,
a little bit in the last few, yeah. Kristen
yeah.
and Vaughn Leland are together. He helps her with a necklace. I guess they're like, I don't know if they're getting it on quite yet or not. Gosh. Um, JR, I have these post-its all over this page because I have, what's coming up. So I got
Is
some
that the
facts.
scene with Vaughan Leland where she's with the
Yes,
necklace?
yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ah, yeah, that's just her trying to probe on what the meeting's about because JR's called a big
Yeah,
meeting for everybody. Yeah,
because her
I
and
remember that
Alan are
now.
still trying to screw him out of something, screw him over in some way, or get some kind of information so he can't blackmail them at least. Um, JR comes there with the proposition. Sue Ellen sees Dr. Elby, says Dusty isn't a crutch. She loved him. I'm sorry, I got the hiccups.
No,
Kristen
you're
is
right.
Kristen is mad that Vaughn is was coming. What?
She just got dirt. She sort of makes a comment about him like
Oh,
leering at her and everything. And
when he
JR's like,
came
oh,
up to
well,
her.
you know. And then she
But
gets
yeah,
dirty.
I don't think she really cared. She just was trying to make him jealous, but doesn't work
And then
at
when
this
he's
point
not,
for
she gets
JR.
angry at him for it.
Yeah. JR wants her to spy on his friends. See, like that's exactly what she was kind of doing that anyway, I feel like, but now she has permission.
Yeah.
Um, calls Alan when he leaves. Ellie doesn't remember much about Rebecca. Ellie says to go to Colorado with her and Jock to see Amanda. And Pam ends up going. I was surprised by this because usually Pam would just, when she's on to something, she's just like, when she has her own storyline, she wants to stick to it. She don't want any other storylines.
Well, like, you know, Ellie
So
did
she
ask her. She's like, I
goes.
feel like I'd feel better if you and Bobby were there. Like, could you come? And she's like,
Yeah,
okay.
and she could use, her dad just died, so she can, well, however long ago it was on the show, who knows? It could have been like 6 months, a week. I don't know. You never know on these soaps. Yesterday. JR gets a call from Vaughn that Sue Ellen overhears. I forget what it was about. I'm guessing it was when he was telling them to go in with the for the money or whatever.
So it's just JR scheming, and so she know, and he's panicking and freaking out, and so like Sue Ellen knows something's up. Like she's sort of overhearing bits and pieces of what's happening.
Oh, because he's
Yeah, and
trying to like pull out, right, of the
yeah, so JR's
situation.
organizing a big meeting because he wants to sell off a big chunk of the Southeast Asian shares to the cartel.
Right.
Yeah,
Alan
not
and
just the cartel, but
Kristen.
like other members as well. Like Vaughn ends
Yeah,
up popping
yeah.
in.
Alan and Kristen get together to see how to screw JR. Kristen calls JR to say she will meet with Jordan Lee.
Yeah,
JR tells Vaughn he is happy he is in on the deal with him, which is what you said.
yeah. So like
Ellie,
everybody signs that he said he does work it pretty well. So like he's supposed to get like 20% royalties off everything they make. And like and he still had shares left over, but he sold the bulk of them off.
right.
And
He had to
all the
keep some
while,
in to look good, like
yeah,
to
yeah,
make it look like he was affected in some way.
yeah. And it
Ellie and
doesn't,
Jock,
I was gonna say it doesn't really work, but it looks official.
right. Ellie and Jock see Amanda. She doesn't recognize him. Amanda thinks that Bobby is Jock. He plays along. Ellie tells Jock she is sorry for what he was going through all these years because now she truly understands, what she was going through. But again,
It's like
whatever.
really
Everybody
sad.
keeps
Poor
moving.
Amanda.
It is.
Like she,
It is.
poor
She
Amanda.
just
Like
snaps.
it, it's just really sad.
It is. Jordan and Kristen have dinner. Then they get on the sofa. He tells her about the recent deal, I guess, that he's doing with JR. But then they don't show, they only show like part of it. Pam thinks Rebecca might still be alive. Cliff
She can't
found a
find a death
signed
certificate. So they're going through Digger's stuff and everything. They can't find a death certificate.
right. Cliff found a signed document, equal rights for a field, which is viewing 23. Right.
Yeah.
Sue Ellen gets wasted at a bar, thinks a dude is Dusty. A bartender calls Bobby. He and Ray, here's a Ray moment. Ray's hardly, I'm telling you, Ray's never on.
Yeah, yeah.
He and Ray go to the bar fight, of course. Bobby brings her home. Joxie's on TV about the rebels' nationalization. He says to JR, "How much did we lose?" JR said, "We may have made ourselves a killing,
Yeah.
or we made ourselves a killing." That's
Yeah.
all I got for this one.
So like with Amanda, they sort of did it a little bit in the early years, and I just thought it was like really well done because in the early years, I think it was like just between Jock and her, and you can sort of see how he's trying to like connect with her, but she's just not there. And then in this, she wants to see him, and she's like vibing and happy, and she's just caught in like this little snippet of time, you know. And then to
Yeah,
see her and Bob, like the way she is with Bobby as well, it's just very sad. And she's like, I know why you don't come to see me, and like I'm a burden, and like it's just so sad because she knows there's something wrong with her,
yeah.
but she's
So,
just not there.
did you recognize the cowboy at the bar?
Oh, it wasn't that Mark Jennings?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. I was like,
Um,
I'm pretty sure he has a mustache normally, like in Dynasty anyway.
yes, that was Jeffrey Scott, who died in 2021, sadly. He
Oh,
was also in General Hospital, Guiding Light, and Dark Shadows. So he's a big soaper.
oh,
Yeah, so that was cool to see him. I always like that. Like we had who was it? My God, I'm blanking her name. Betty Lou, Laura from Falcon Crest. Totally blanking on her name.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But we had her in the few episodes, and I always like when there's other soapers in there, especially primetimer ones. Um, episode 25, A House Divided, the season 3 finale. The paparazzi is talking to Jack and JR about the oil thing, because again, I didn't know what it was, the nationalization, all this bullshit.
Yeah, so it's like big interviews about whether or not like they're gonna take this massive hit, and like they're sort of crowd controlling and basically like, oh, actually, we're gonna do all right out of all this.
Yeah. Um, Jordan Lee comes in, he goes off on JR. The cartel had bought the leases from him and got screwed in the end.
Hmm.
And he says something along the lines of, I'll tell that to Seth Stone's widow.
Yeah,
We
so Seth
find
Stone's
out that
killed
Seth
himself.
Stone killed himself. Yes. The company sold most of its oil leases before nationalization. Is
Yeah,
it nationalism too, or nationalization?
nationalization.
Okay. I don't know why I put nationalism. I probably
Eh,
forgot what I was writing. That happens. Vaughn comes and goes off on JR. JR denies knowing anything. Greg and Lucy are interesting. They're like walking along, like, and you think he's like feeling weird because like she's a student. She's like,
yeah,
and then they kiss or whatever. I'm like, I don't even. This is just such a back burner story. It's weird, but whatever.
yeah, it
I just
is.
try to point out, like, even if they're in it for a little bit, as they are in the credits. um, lost my spot. Kristen and Allie. Kristen and Alan meet up, wondering how he found out. Oh, how JR found out about what was going to go down. And they basically start calling people and try to find out who.
They call Hank.
Um, well, yeah, they do eventually. Kristen and Alan. Oh, I said that. Pam is looking for her mama. Bobby told Sue Ellen to stop drinking. She promises not to drink again. Hank calls JR going off, brings up Kristen. Um, he says, JR says for him to destroy all the evidence and not to do anything that Kristen said, basically. Because
Yeah,
Kristen's trying to get like the report sent to her and all that shit.
yeah, yeah. She's trying to scam, and yeah, he's just annoyed that he wasn't like tasked with destroying it himself. And
Hmm.
yeah, sort of alerts JR, and JR's on it immediately.
Sue Ellen goes to Dr. Albee. I know she's putting her life in Bobby's hands. He says the same thing that he said the last time with Dusty. And he says, you trust him more than you trust yourself? She's like, yeah, I do.
And that right there is the exact reason why she keeps making these sort of mistakes and the sort of thing I like. That's what I mean. What I was saying earlier about her sort of the role, how her role in development has been is sort of
Right.
it's just like still trying to struggle to break through break through that old shell and sort of go forward and be new, but like she's still holding herself back from old habits, and it is because of things like her confidence. She doesn't trust herself.
Yeah.
She doesn't trust herself to make the right decisions.
And she probably shouldn't because she has not been.
No, but
Um,
she's also not made the
but
right decisions while like also being completely mental and erratic. I mean, like, she's the whole thing
well,
is like when
yeah,
you
but again, that's what therapy does. Like therapy
yeah.
takes time. It's not going to happen in
Oh, no, no,
five
no, not at
months.
all. That's what I mean. Like that's where I'm saying as far as how like they've like really sort of written like the way it's written is like
Like a
fairly like I know it's
real,
a dramatic, but it's very
it's
real. Like the
true.
way yeah,
Yeah,
and the way she is, and the backwards and the forwards, the steps forward, the steps back, and stuff like that. And she's still, when you think about how long the show is too, she's still quite early in her character development as far as all that
yeah, for
goes.
sure. Pam finds an old lady. I forget where she's at when she finds this lady.
Corpus Christi.
Thank you. That knew Rebecca. JR confronts Kristen. She lies. He tries to pay her off and says, go put on your little bikini and go somewhere. You'll probably last a year with this other rich man in
Yeah,
Rio, I think.
yeah, it makes some money.
He gives her a bunch of money and she gives it back, which is shocking, which means, she actually wanted more from him in a way. Um, JR and Sue Ellen go at it. She finds, oh, yeah, this is where she gets all pissed off. She throws things. Um, and she finds a gun in her drawer, or sees the gun in her drawer. Um, Cliff goes to JR and Bobby about Ewing 23. Bobby leaves because he's over Cliff shit too, so he's like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, he's
They
like,
have a
fine, fine, you've got the oil well, fine, and just kind of like leaves it and goes. And JR sort of like brings Cliff over for a drink.
yeah, and he calls to shut the field down
Yes.
completely without asking anybody, without asking Bobby like he should, or not even asking, but be like, hey, Bobby, what's your opinion on this?
I mean, he's clearly still in
Um,
the building.
yeah, right. Pam and Bobby catch up. Says she is going to quit her job to go try to find her mama. Greg has a wife and kid, I put, because Lucy wants to go out to dinner or something. He's like, oh no, I can't. And then he calls like somebody and asks about a child, I guess. And you're like, okay, he's a dirty dog. And that's the end of that storyline, I think, for this
Pretty
episode,
much.
for the season. Um, JR has Alan brought to him by his goons, threatens him with a rape charge if he tries to stay in town. He just said, I'll get whoever to say that you raped them and it'll ruin your career, basically, in Dallas.
Pretty much.
Um, Bobby mentions Ewing 23 to Jock and JR because JR didn't say anything to Jock about it. He's keeping everything in. he says he took care of it. Jock defends JR, and um,
It's pretty
Bobby's
much why
basically
Bobby
had it.
leaves because like yeah, he pretty much leaves because he's like you're just gonna screw you go that far to screw someone out of something that's rightfully theirs. So like that's
Yeah,
sort of where he's at with it, and he's had enough because he's constantly got to sort of battle JR as it is, and now he's got
right.
Jock in the background like openly backing him, and it's
Yep.
like no,
And he doesn't want to be a part of that because Bobby's a good guy
yeah,
right now.
yeah,
And JR basically says Bobby's getting weak, just like Gary. He didn't say that, but I did.
mm,
Um, Bobby goes to Pam, wants to leave South Fork. And Pam actually kind of like tries to get into like think about this. Like this is your family. Like he's like, you always wanted to go. What are you doing, lady? And
yeah, but it's
she's like,
different
no,
when
like
she wants to. She's
right,
not. It's not. Yeah, it's different because he's like blood related. When she wants to go and
right.
complains, it's not really the same.
Bobby goes to tell Miss Ellie and Jock that he's leaving, so Ellen tells JR off when he comes in the room. He says he will lock Sue Ellen up.
Hmm.
Um, the cop a cop goes to arrest Kristen for prostitution and says she has 24 hours to leave town. And Alan was there too, and he said, "You too." JR calls to get Sue Ellen put away. Vaughn calls. He wants his money, threatens him. Um, Cliff talks to Digger's grave that he will stop him for good, JR that is.
Yeah,
Sue Ellen tells Dr. Elby that she will stop JR. So we all know where this is leading, right? JR gets a hang up call. Someone creeps in. Who's there? Boom, boom,
and drops credits.
and drops. Now, when I watched this episode first, like I was thinking, and it was like when you watch it now, it's like you see why it's a pretty good episode. But at the time, I'm like, how is this like? First of all, I don't know why people would care who shot JR. Because I don't. I was just happy he was shot. So I don't care who did it, and I wish they would get away with it, you know? So
They
I
kind
just
of
don't
do.
understand. I don't understand. Well, I don't understand why it was so huge. You know, like I guess back then it was because we didn't have like now we have cliffhangers all the
Mm.
time, like nonstop in everything we watch. So I guess that's why, because it was like the first big cliffhanger ever.
Yeah,
I
so
don't
like
know.
it's just that first big one that had the fan base and the sort of support behind it. It's like what we see now on a larger scale with other fandoms and franchises. It's something that's pretty commonplace. But back then, like, Dallas was like one of the sort of first proper primetime serials as far as soapies go. I mean, you had, it wasn't, it starts off a bit that way, but it ends up being a continuous story rather than like story arcs where everything's wrapped up, in like an
Yeah,
episode or
yeah.
two. And yeah, I just think it came at a time at the right time as well. Like you also had really fantastic actors and really good writing. Like that's why I bring up things like Sue Ellen's addiction struggles and like how it reflects in like her own confidence issues and the fact that she's always just essentially been this kept woman and like or like no, not kept necessarily, but like planned. Her mother had plans for her, then she fulfilled that role, and now the role's not exactly what she thought it was, and blah blah blah. Like um there's so much real like it has all the melodrama that we know of the soapy genre, but it carries a lot of character depths and character development. And it's always why like I think I've said it before in episodes before, where not that either is bad, but Dallas is a good example of plot driven characters, whereas Dynasty would be sorry, character driven plots, Dallas, plot driven characters to Dynasty.
Right.
Yeah, so like so sometimes like in Dynasty, characters do things that they probably wouldn't based on what the plot needs them to do. Whereas
Right.
in Dallas, that doesn't usually happen. It does happen in the later seasons, but I think that's usually what occurs when you have a show that runs really long time and has
Yeah.
multiple writers and stuff like that.
So this episode was written by Rena Down.
Mm.
I didn't look her up, but I will because I want to know what else she did. The director was Leonard Katzman. There was a writer's strike in the summer of 1980 that held up production. So the normal seasons here would be September, and it didn't come back till November. So people had to actually wait like 5 months or 6 months before they got to see. And then there was even a bunch of episodes without revealing who did it.
Mm.
So that sucked for them.
It took
Because
it took four. It's 4 episodes into season 4 that it actually gets revealed.
I was lucky and saw it on SoapNet where I don't remember if there was back-to-back episodes when I watched it. So I got to see it like pretty quick because it was like 10 episodes a week, you know.
I had the DVDs, so I had to wait for the DVD of season 4. That was about it. And I think it was already out anyway, so it was like, oh, do I have the money to get it? You know?
Yeah, right. So the writer's strike was in July of 1980, held up production for 8 weeks. The season 4 premiere didn't start until November 7th, 1980. And the Who Done It episode didn't air until November 21st, 1980. So it's like the end of the year. That's like Thanksgiving week here.
Yeah,
During the summer also, Larry Hagman demanded a raise.
yeah.
And because he knew it was big, everybody was talking about it. It was on Time Magazine. It blew up here. It was on People. It was just crazy. Of course, I was only 2 at the time, so I did not know what was going on that summer. Um, so CBS actually prepared to recast JR. Did you know that?
Mm. I did hear
He
about that
didn't.
there were talks that they might.
He didn't show up to work. I think they resumed production in June of 1980. So the strike didn't start till July. So I guess they started, whatever they did, like start pre-taping things, whatever. Um, and yeah, so he was not there for the first 10 days of work. He later came back with a raise of $100,000 an episode.
True.
For 1980, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wish I knew. I wonder if Bobby ended up getting equal pay at that point. Um, I'm thinking probably not, because JR is the only one that fought for it, or Larry Hagman, I'm sorry, not the character.
Yeah. Hold
Um,
on a second. Hold on.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just hold
hmm
on. Hold on, dude. Won't be long. I gotta go, dude.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all I got anyway. So just wanted to say those facts.
No, 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 you're right. Like I just didn't expect someone was knocking on the door.
But all
But
right, we'll
yeah.
wrap up
I,
this episode of Prison Soaps. We'll bring you season 4 soon. Um, subscribe, like, and comment everything, and we'll see you later.
bye.